What hidden battles were fought far from the jungles of Vietnam, changing a nation forever? By 1971, the streets of Washington, D.C., filled with a different kind of army, anti-war protesters united in their demand to bring the conflict to an end. Signs, chants, and marches transformed dissent into a defining feature of American life, challenging the government and reshaping the nation's fabric. These mass movements proved that resistance could not only be heard but seen, creating a powerful visual legacy of a divided country searching for its identity. The Vietnam War may have ended overseas, but its echoes lingered at home, forcing America to confront the scars left behind. As the Vietnam War stretched into its second decade, the National Mall in Washington, D.C. transformed into a battleground of a different kind, an arena for voices demanding peace. Thousands converged at the base of the Washington Monument, their chants and banners echoing across the nation's capital, a powerful call to end the violence. It was here, amidst the sea of protesters, that opposition to the war broke into the mainstream, transforming from scattered whispers into a roar that could no longer be ignored. The American public, divided and disillusioned, began to question not just the war, but their country's very soul. Among the uniformed ranks of soldiers, individuality found quiet expression. A young man moved cautiously through the jungle, the words, "Make love not war," scrawled across his helmet in a bold act of defiance. It was a silent protest, a reminder that even in the midst of battle, humor, identity, and dissent could not be fully extinguished. These personal markings, whether slogans or symbols, spoke volumes about the inner lives of soldiers grappling with a conflict that seemed both distant and deeply personal. Beneath the rigid structure of war, humanity persisted in unexpected and poignant ways. For many who fought in Vietnam, childhood ended in the draft office. Teenagers barely out of high school found themselves thrust into a world of combat, forced to make life and death decisions in an unfamiliar land. The war was fought largely by the young, their innocence and naivety shattered under the weight of responsibility and fear. Many struggled to understand why they were there, caught in a conflict that seemed both distant and inescapable. Their sacrifices became inseparable from the tragedy of Vietnam, a generation asked to carry the burden of a war they never chose. In 1966, President Lyndon B. Johnson stood among American troops, his presence symbolizing the escalating commitment to Vietnam. With hundreds of thousands of soldiers deployed, Johnson staked his presidency on the belief that stopping communism abroad was essential to preserving American credibility. Yet as the war grew more brutal and public opinion turned against it, the weight of Vietnam overshadowed his domestic achievements. His decision not to seek re-election in 1968 reflected the toll the war had taken, not just on the nation, but on his vision of leadership and progress that had once inspired hope. Within seconds, napalm ignited the lush green landscape, transforming it into a scene of fire and devastation. Villages, homes, and lives disappeared in the inferno, leaving behind only smoke and ash. The use of napalm became one of the war's most haunting symbols, capturing the sheer force of modern warfare and the unimaginable cost paid by civilians and soldiers alike. These images burned themselves into the collective memory of a nation, forcing America to confront the brutality of its actions and the sobering reality of what was being lost in the name of war. Far from the protests, soldiers moved through Vietnam's rugged terrain, each step shadowed by the constant hum of helicopters overhead. A squad advanced cautiously, eyes scanning for unseen threats, while the rotor blades kicked up clouds of dust that clung to their sweat-soaked uniforms. They lived in perpetual motion, where every departure felt like an arrival into uncertainty, and every moment held the weight of danger. The war's rhythm was relentless, a choreography of air and ground, and amid this constant tension, survival often came down to instinct, teamwork, and the merciless hand of fate. The final days of the Vietnam War descended into chaos as President Gerald Ford oversaw the evacuation of Saigon in 1975. Helicopters crowded the skies, ferrying desperate evacuees, while soldiers scrambled to secure routes of escape. Among the confusion, Ford carried a Vietnamese baby, a poignant image from an evacuation that signified not triumph, but retreat. America's longest war ended not with victory, but with exhaustion, leaving behind fractured lives and unanswered questions. For many, the fall of Saigon felt less like closure and more like the unraveling of promises made and hopes abandoned. In the depths of the Vietnamese jungle, loyalty and endurance took on a physical form as soldiers carried their wounded comrade. Each step through the dense foliage was deliberate, the burden of war etched in the grim determination on their faces. The jungle seemed to close in around them, a living labyrinth where survival meant relying on one another in ways that transcended rank or duty. These moments laid bare the war's humanity, where strategy and firepower gave way to the raw, unfiltered reality of pain, sacrifice, and the fragile line between life and death. The war's unyielding pace offered no reprieve. A group of soldiers paused briefly, exhaustion etched into every line of their faces as they tried to catch their breath. One bore visible wounds, a stark reminder of the physical toll carried by each man. Yet even in moments like these, the sounds of distant gunfire pressed them forward, a cruel reminder that rest was fleeting and danger was ever present. The Vietnam War demanded resilience beyond measure, forcing its participants to endure both the physical and emotional scars that would follow them long after the fighting stopped. Subscribe for more groovy stories.